Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Adorned with Dignity. Today we're on day 33 and we're talking about the Yeshous and the Zechus of upgrading the level of covering the hair. Today's lesson is going to be really based on some stories about personal accounts of people who have taken on this mitzvah and they've seen great Yeshous in their communities. And there's actually a book, I've mentioned it a few times before, I'll say it again, and it's called Women Speak, and it talks about this specifically in their real stories from women in our generation who have, taken on this mitzvah and have seen great salvation, and they've had some really crazy things going on, and things were suddenly resolved once they took on this mitzvah. So it's always great to hear. I think it gives great hizuk to women, especially when you're hearing about stories in our generation. Even though the stories we hear about, the past generation, our ancestors and the generations before us, those are great stories. But it's always great to know, especially if you know the person that this is happening to. I think it gives you that much more hizuk to kind of continue on and want to take on this mitzvah itself. So it states, generating protection. It says, through upgrading the level of covering her hair, a woman affects added protection for herself and all Klal Yisrael. It says, the following poignant story was related by Miss Chevy Rutkin from Yerushalayim, who portrays the great power of this cherished mitzvah. And it says, a few years ago, there were a number of children in our community who were diagnosed with cancer, lo aleinu. And the neighbors got together and unanimously decided, we must do something as zechus for these children to have a refuah shlema. And they have to live. They are too young to die. We then came up with an idea, and perhaps we should upgrade the level covering our hair as zechus for these children who, as a result of the treatment for their illness, who unfortunately lost their hair. So they were going to do this, mida keneged mida. It says, before we continue with our project, we wanted to ask Harav Haim Kanievsky, Shlitaf was a good idea. The answer was heartwarming. It is the right thing in a time of misfortune for women to strengthen themselves in the area of tznuis. We felt so empowered after receiving the Gadol Hador's Haskama and Bracha. Each of us took upon ourselves to improve in this mitzvah, shortening our sheitels, coloring the white parts, upgrading our head covering. Baruch Hashem, we saw tremendous Yeshous. The children who were diagnosed miraculously recovered. At the time, I saw a brochure which depicted pictures of many zeros our nations were enduring with the following words printed across the pictures: there is hope. The pamphlet then related countless stories of women who saw open miracles as a result of strengthening themselves in the dignified mitzvah of kisurosh. I've heard of countless people who took upon themselves to upgrade their level of covering their hairs as a zechus for a loved one suffering from illnesses, and I have seen open miracles. We know that there are various Devorah organizations which help sick patients, such as Chai Lifeline, Ezer Mitzion, and the Zichron Shlomi Refuah Fund. We feel so indebted for their efforts and try to support them. What wouldn't we do to relieve the suffering of our brethren? Indeed, we possess a powerful strategy that can help heal them, to elevate ourselves in this mitzvah of covering our hair so they should not have to lose their hair. So it says salvation is the zechus of improving in this mitzvah, and says we all know the more difficult it is for us to fulfill a mitzvah, the greater the schar is for the performance. Indeed, a woman who upgrades the level covering her hair will be bountiful and rewarded for fulfilling Hashem's will, especially today when modesty is so rampant, it is more difficult to be different. Therefore, if she rises to the challenge and courageously fulfills His will, He will reward her 1,000-fold for her sincere efforts. So this statement, I think, is probably more true now than it has ever been. We learn modesty from our matriarchs, and we learn examples of modesty in the Torah. And of course, they set the bar and they set it really high. However, with that said, the women who perform this mitzvah in this generation, it is my belief that their reward will be greater. Why? In the time of our matriarchs, modesty was among everyone. It was not a question. It was not even a debate. Everyone understood it. Whether you were Yidden or not Yidden. And so now we have this kind of almost polar opposite, where it almost seems that to be naked in the street To be erva in the street is the norm. That is what has become an acceptable minhag. And so now to be the woman who is holding to that level of tznuis, you've now become, supernatural, really, because it's an unnatural thing in this day and age to walk out and be tznuis. You are now the minority and you are the different one. Where before it was that if you went out, it was such a shame and embarrassment. And it's almost as if the woman that goes out who's tznuis is now being made to be embarrassed. But let me tell you, I'm going to give you Zuk, all the women who even have a desire to be modest, okay? Never before in the history of all Klal Yisrael has there ever been a time where the modesty has been more valued than it is today. What you are doing is above and beyond nature, and in measure for measure, Hashem will act accordingly with you above nature. There is a specific reason why Hashem has asked a woman to be modest. Okay? And there's a real correlation to why there is this kind of hardship coming into our lives when we're not holding in tznuis, as opposed to the bracha, because it's like we're getting a bracha, but we're not holding on to it. So you can be great in all other areas, which are important, don't get me wrong. But if you're not tzniut, listen to me well, if you're not tzniut, it's like pouring water into a bucket that has a huge hole in the bottom. It's going to pour out. That bracha is going to pour out. There is a reason why the woman is a pipeline to the bracha. And Besrat Hashem, I've been asked to do a class that deals more with the tznius part, not just the kisurosh. And with Hashem's help, with B'siyata Ishmaya, I'll be zochet to do that class and really to go into the reasons why it is so important to be modest. Okay? Because I really think that sometimes when we hear these statements about, I'm going to I'll do some modesty, but it won't, maybe it won't last, or blah, blah, blah. First of all, the goal is that we hope every woman is successful in their journey of tznius. But I think, I've been asked, always women want to know which part of modesty should I take on first. And I always say the learning of modesty is the first thing that you should take on first, for a lot of reasons. First of all, if you understood why you were keeping modest, already you're going to have that yirat shemaim, right? Already you're going to have it. Because if I think, and I want to judge everyone favorably. So I'm going to say that when I see a woman outside, there is no way she could know. There is no way that she could know the ramifications of being immodest, because if she did, there's no way she would go out like that. Additionally, if she knew what was being said in Shemaim at the time of her going out that way, 100% she would not go out that way. So I have to believe, with all of my heart of hearts, I have to believe that this is a matter of someone that just doesn't know. Now, for the small case of people that do know, then at that point, then you have to say, this is pure chutzpah. It's pure chutzpah. So again, with Hashem's help, I'm hoping to put out the class also because you want to be successful going out. You want to know what's permitted to you and what's not permitted to you. And my Rav always says, he says, especially on the things, he always says this about Shabbos, learning Shabbos laws, that if you know what's permitted to you, a lot of people think there are things that are not permitted to them that are actually permitted to them. And, so I think it's always good to know, especially in the area of tznius, what is permitted to you and what is not permitted to you. This way you have the guidelines, because there's a difference between the bare basics of what you have to do, which is really your guidelines, and then there's a difference between what is the minhag of your particular town. So for instance, perhaps some of the things you would probably be able to do in the 5 towns probably wouldn't be a good idea in Muncie. Or, what is a good idea in Muncie may not be a good idea in Bnei Brak. So all of you want to know the difference, and you want to know, this way you're always prepared in whatever circle you're moving in. You know how to be according, you know how to be adorned with dignity all the time. So, I mean, again, I'm really hoping with Hashem's help that he would give me the words with fire, strength, and koyak to give over these lessons, and that they would be really fun, really, because at the end of the day, we're all learning about this together. We're all in this together. But I just have to, in my heart of hearts, I cannot think any other way than to think that there is no way that a woman could know. She must not know. If she knew, there's no way. There is no way. I cannot believe anything different about my sisters. I just cannot. There is just no way. I cannot believe that any of my sisters would have that much chutzpah to go out there and do what they did. It is my firm belief that they don't know. So that is really the intention. And I have loved every moment of teaching this book for the second year. And Besrat Hashem, he'll give me the opportunity to teach the tznuis classes. And I promise you with all my heart, I love, love, love seeing the light bulbs go off when a woman makes a connection back to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they start on this journey, and it is such a heartwarming thing. It gives me such koyak and strength to continue on every day. So that's it for today, and I hope we'll all be together again soon. Besrat Hashem.